Welcome to Monterey County Pops Pros Teach. I'm Carl Christensen, the music director and conductor of Monterey County Pops. Our orchestra of fully professional musicians presents free concerts of pops and patriotic music throughout Monterey County. During the school year, we visit local schools and conduct clinics and workshops for student musicians in the afternoon. And in the evening, we perform together in a free concert for their community. We are committed to mentoring young musicians, and since we have not been able to visit schools since March, we have created this series of instrumental clinics. They will be broadcast once a week on Comcast Channel 24, and they will also be posted on our website, montereycountypops.org, along with downloadable exercises, tips, and other print material. Bienvenido a Monterey County Pops Pros Teach. Soy Carl Christensen, director musical de Monterey County Pops. Nuestra orquesta de músicos totalmente profesionales presenta conciertos gratuitos de música ligera y patriótica en todo el condado de Monterey. Durante el año escolar visitamos escuelas y realizamos clínicas y talleres para estudiantes músicos por la tarde, y por la noche presentamos un concierto conjunto para su comunidad. Para nosotros, la educación musical de jóvenes músicos es muy importante, y como no hemos podido visitar escuelas desde marzo, hemos creado esta serie de clínicas instrumentales. Se transmitirán una vez a la semana en el canal 24 de Comcast y también se publicarán en nuestro sitio web montereycountypops.org junto con ejercicios, consejos y otro material impreso descargable. And now, please enjoy our flute episode presented by our principal flute, Karen King. Y ahora disfruten de nuestro episodio de flauta presentado por nuestra flauta principal, Karen King.
Greetings, fellow flutists. Welcome to our Monterey County Pops online flute lesson. I'm Karen King, section leader of the flutes in the Monterey Pops. I started playing flute when I was 8 years old in a summer school music program offered in my hometown of Pacific Grove. Professor Thomas Egan from San Jose State University would come down with other professors to teach the woodwind classes for 6 weeks. I was able to take private lessons while he was in town. I chose the flute because it sounded so bright and cheerful, and I got to play the melody all the time. I will now play for you a popular Irish tune called the Galway Piper on first flute and then on piccolo, which sounds a full octave or 8 steps higher than the flute. And now on the piccolo. I will now share with you some fun facts about the flute, its history, how to do special techniques on the flute, and the part it plays in today's bands and orchestras. First, some history of the flute. Flutes are ancient instruments of the whistle family. In the Stone Age, whistles were made from anything lying around the cave. They would find a bone and turn that into a whistle, a piece of wood or a chunk of clay. The early flutes had no finger holes, so they played just one tone. Kind of boring, huh? Once holes were added, the player could create a melody, and that was fun. The first flutes had no keys, just a series of open holes to place the fingers over. Gradually, keys were added one at a time until now we have the modern flute with a total of 16 keys. We only have 10 fingers, so we figure that out. We get to use our thumbs to do double duty. And the left-hand thumb has 2 keys to cover, the B flat and the B natural key. The right hand has some work to do. There's a side key here for really fast patterns. We can go hit that little tiny key really fast, and the other 2 here, which are auxiliary keys for the right hand, get to do trills. And the baby finger, the smallest of all, has 4 keys to cover. E flat key, low D flat, the low C and the low B, if you have that extra key at the end of your flute. So the flute fingers are keeping us busy all the time. The other members of the family, starting from the top, are the piccolo, which sounds an octave above the flute, the alto flute, which is much bigger and sounds a fourth below the flute. The head joint has to wrap around, has a big curve so that we can hit the mouthpiece and still have our hands here instead of way out here. Same thing for the bass flute. It gets bigger. And then finally, the contrabass flute. You hardly ever see that around, but if you go to a flute convention, there's tons of them. It's about this wide, comes up about 7 feet. Again, it curls back around, and the flutist has to play standing up. The flute is the only orchestral woodwind that does not produce its sound by using a vibrating reed, like the oboe, clarinet, saxophone, and bassoon. The flute sound is created by splitting the airstream across an open hole. I will now play some sounds on just the head joint of the flute, and it sounds like the original flutes way back when. It sounds like a toe. So that is about the oldest sound we're going to get out of our modern flute. Again, it sounds just like those early toy whistles. It gets a lot better when we add the main body with most of the keys and the foot joint. Now let's talk about the flute embouchure. Embouchure is a French word for how we set our lips when playing a musical instrument. Now pretend you just saw a smashed slug on the ground. Your first reaction is to say, ew. Okay, take that shape, say ew, and now place your flute mouth plate gently in the natural cleft of your chin and let your lower lip flop over it. So it's kind of like you're looking like you're kind of sad as well. Cover as much of the plate as possible so that the opening of the lips is long and straight and thin rather than round and open. So we have a picture there that you can look at to see, and it's, again, just let it lay over the hole and let the lower lip spread as thin as possible, and we adjust the shape of our embouchure and the angle of air stream as we play from low to high notes. Again, there's a picture there for you to look at. We stretch our lips at the corner for the low register, covering about only 1/4 of the hole, and direct the air downward toward the back wall of the flute. For the middle to high register, as we go up to the upper octaves, we relax the corners of the lip and push them gently forward, kind of puckering over and across the hole more. Keep your cheeks relaxed and play from the smooth, moist inside of the lips, so you can even feel this part of your lip hanging over the edge. Let's go to another part of playing the flute, and that is another big word, articulation. Articulation in music is the pronunciation of musical sound. For flutists, the tongue releases the air from a position on the gum ridge just above our front teeth. We use the sharper T's to get that sound. And if it's low note, we say toe, toe, toe. Middle register, two, two, two. And T, T, T for the more accented and higher notes. If we want a softer sound, we just change that T to a gliding D. And we go do, 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 and D, D, D for the high notes. Keep the ends of your articulations open. Never stop the tone by using your tongue or lips, because your sound will do something like this. It'll sound like somebody came up and grabbed your throat. So always release and let the air stop that way with the diaphragm. There are lots of times when we want to play notes connected to each other, and we call that a slur. On the musical page, it looks like a curved line over the tops of the notes that the composer wants to have connected. Another tonguing technique that we use is the staccato, which is an Italian word which means to play the notes short and accented. The opposite of staccato is legato, long, smooth notes. I will now play an F major scale with first legato notes. Second, with slurred notes. And third, with our staccato notes. Those are the short ones. And you can hear the difference the tonguing makes in how each of those scales sounded. I will now play for you a lively dance from France in 2/4 time called Tambourine by the Belgian composer Francois-Joseph Gossec, who lived from 1734 to 1829 during the classical period of music along with Haydn and Mozart. And listen for the different styles because this piece has staccatos, slurs, accents, and the soft and loud dynamics. So, next thing up is about our breathing. As human beings and wind instrument players, that's something we do all the time. Please stand up now, and we will do a quick breathing exercise before we play our scales, exercises, and songs together. Exercise 1 is, I want you to pant like a dog. Pretend like you just took your puppy out for a run, and the puppy is coming back, and he's doing the panting. And that's what I want you to do right now. You're taking in a nice deep breath of air. Let the lungs take up more space in your chest, causing the diaphragm to drop down. And that's that little bouncy thing we feel when we go. And as you exhale the air, the lungs deflate and the diaphragm moves back to its original spot. When you take a breath of air to play your flute, keep an upright posture if you're sitting or standing so that your lungs can expand to their maximum, allowing you to get the most air on each breath. Once again, I would like you to do a little panting. Put one hand on your diaphragm and start doing the pant. And that's how it works every time we breathe. Put your hands on your sides now, and you can feel the expansion there. So as we breathe and take in air, as wind players, the whole area spreads and gets bigger because it's all making room for your lungs to fill with lots and lots of air. Exercise 2 is one we can't do today. It's called swimming. And it's a great sport because it forces you to breathe with your diaphragm. So if you want a perfect exercise for flutists, get into the pool. Now we get to play together using all the tips that I just gave you. We're going to start with some scales. The scales book that you see up there, it's the Rubank Elementary Method. It has tons of fun scales, exercises, and even duets for 2 flutes. And we're going to start with the F major scale. It's an easy key for the flutes, and it only has 1 flat. You notice how they remind you that in the 4th bar, you're going to be playing that B as a flat. F major scale. next one is called Melody in F major, and that's number 5. And the last one on this page is called Duet in F major. Now, as you can see, in a duet has 2 lines or 2 parts. And here's a tip. I want more of you to choose the lower line than the top line because the flutes in the lower register play softer. So to get a better balance, you'd have maybe 2 flutes on the top line and 3 or 4 flutes playing the lower harmony line. An extra cool thing about this piece is it actually takes us out of the key. If you look through the first line there, there's an F sharp, and the F sharp is not in the key of F, and it immediately comes back to the F natural. So be ready to change from the F using the first finger of the right hand, and then go to the F sharp, third finger right hand, and then coming back to the first finger F. So has everybody got their parts figured out? Here we go. I'll just have to imagine and listen for the second flutes. Very good. Now we're going to go to the high register in the F major scale again, but now F major is going to take all of the high notes going all the way up past 3 ledger lines above the staff where the high F sits. So here's our F major scale, high register. And now we're going to play a folk melody that uses the slur. This one has, in your music, you can see 2 choices. You can slur both ways, either 2 and 2, or take all 4 in the longer slur. So we're going to pick the longer slur in this one, and it's again another folk melody. Very good on the folk melody. Our final song together will be one of my favorite patriotic songs, America in F, and that's number 4 on lesson 10. covered many facets of making music with our flutes, but there is one more very important one, the importance of counting. I remember my dear Professor Egan, who started me on the flute lessons, and I was having trouble counting, but he wouldn't give up on me. So this esteemed professor got down on the floor on his hands and knees and grabbed my shoe and pumped it up and down, saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and over and over. But I got it. The downbeat and the upbeat, they are both very important in music. Another quick story from my many years playing next to our first flutist, Ray Fabricio, a world-renowned player and teacher in the Monterey County Symphony. Ray had a big solo coming up, and he looked so relaxed, kind of sitting back in his chair, nonchalant, not worried at all. It was a long series of rests that had to be counted very carefully. At almost the end of the long count, Ray turned to me and said, "What's the count, Karen?" I whispered to him, 30, 2, 3, 4, 31, 2. And he came in right on cue. Whew. Those counting lessons really paid off. I counted a lot of rests for Ray and myself over our years together in the symphony. I've had many memorable experiences over the years that I never would have had if I had not played the flute. Two stand out in my memory. The first was getting to be in the orchestra that played for the Pope when he came to the Carmel Mission and Laguna Seca for the massive mass that he performed. The second was getting to play in the orchestra for Pavarotti, the famous Italian tenor, when he played at Pebble Beach. I would like to tell you a little about two very famous flutists, Sir James Galway and Emmanuel Paoud. Sir James Galway played in such prestigious orchestras as the Sadler Wells Orchestra Opera and Royal Opera House Covent Garden, the BBC Symphony, the Royal Philharmonic, and the London Symphony Orchestra before winning the position of solo flute with the Berlin Philharmonic. When he retired from that position, Emmanuel Paoud took over. Emmanuel plays 150 concerts a year, 75 with the Berlin Philharmonic and 75 recitals, concertos, and chamber music. Both of them have extensive recordings available for students to listen to and learn from. I have two more short flute solos to play for you. The first is by Maurice Ravel, a French composer of impressionistic music. The title is A Piece in the Form of an Habanera. The habanera was a popular Spanish social dance that came from Havana, Cuba, around 1850, which was brought from Africa originally by the slave trade. It is recognized by its uneven rhythms and big flourishes of fast notes. This last fun piece I'm going to play for you uses another spatial tonguing which I have not taught you yet. It's called the flutter tonguing, and it is used a lot in jazz flute playing. Now, here we go. It's a totally different tongue thing that's going to go on with flutter tonguing. You start with a D and follow with a roll of R's. So we're going to do just like the low, do, and D, but we're going to just take our tongue first of all and make sure it's loose and floppy. Kind of go like that, kind of like a horse, right? But we still keep the tongue just up above the front teeth and right against the gum there with a D, and then we just let the tongue roll. So here's what we're going to do. Start with the D and the R, and we go like this. Has a cool raspy sound, doesn't it? So I'm going to play for you now the last tune today, the Swingin' Shepherd Blues, which was written by Mo Kaufman, a 1957 jazz musician, was the year he wrote it. And that Swingin' Shepherd Blues hit 23 on the Billboard top pop chart. In the 1990s, Mo received an award for the millionth performance of his tune. So here is Mo Kaufman's Swingin' Shepherd Blues with the flutter tongue. Okay, on the screen now, you will see some duets and trio books that I recommend for you to play as you go through your years of flute playing. They have tons of fun stuff, and the most fun is playing with your friends. You've been a great class, and I've had a blast working with you. Have fun with these exercises and the tips, and enjoy your flute playing. Thank you very much.